Well, today's announcement will not only be outstanding news to Aussies still stranded overseas and hoping to have Christmas here, but it also now allows hundreds of thousands of us to travel out of the country for either a holiday or to reconnect with family in person. But before you go digging out your passport and searching for flights tonight, what are the things we need to be aware of now as travellers in a COVID-19 world? Joining me is Quentin Long from Australian and International Traveller magazine. G'day, Quentin.
G'day, it's really great to be with you.
Exciting news, mate. What are your thoughts on the New South Wales Premier's bold announcement today?
Exactly as you said, it's very bold. It's really putting it out there, and we knew that this Premier was going to be very aggressive about opening up the country and opening up the state that he can. So that was fantastic, but it was always predicated on what the federal government would do and whether they would play ball, for want of a better term. And so we are still waiting to see the federal government really open up the country on those international borders.
So you just wonder, there was the Prime Minister this afternoon ticking off Dominic Perrottet for going one step too far, inviting tourists in from November 1. He's also veered away from the national plan, which Doherty recommended, which was having a home quarantine, arm to those who arrive from overseas as well. Is it possible they could wind that back in a couple of days?
Yeah, look, it really is yet to be seen, but the intention from the Premier is to absolutely open it up, not even have home quarantining. But it may happen that he'll get us some advice, or there may be some circumstances where it becomes prudent to introduce some sort of quarantining at home or some sort of formula to protect people against it. But what we're seeing, Smithy, internationally is probably a roadmap of how things are going to happen. And I'll give you a quick case study. Fiji at the moment, very hot at the, really exciting to book up because they're going to be open from the 1st of December to Australians, particularly from Sydney. And what you'll see there is you need to have a negative test within 3 days of your departure. But when you arrive, you'll have a rapid test, and then you'll have another test after 7 days. And that enables them to have a little bit more security around who is infected, who's not. So the testing becomes critical, particularly when you lose that quarantine in your armoury of protections.
We'll have to turn up to the airport 4 hours ahead of time.
Well, no, you'll be actually when you arrive in market, because you'll have to have a test 72 hours before you depart, and then when you land, I'll give you a rapid test. And that rapid testing is going to be really important. And it's also the logistics around that when you are in a foreign country trying to come home. How are you going to get that test that allows you to get back on the flight to come home in a foreign country? So, for example, places like London, places like Vancouver, LA, you've got to actually facilitate that test before you even step back on the flight to come back.
So where are we at in terms of insurance? What are we covered for? And will we need to produce a certificate of vaccination before we buy insurance?
Yeah, so there's a whole heap of complexity around travel insurance. The first thing about whether you'll need it to buy the insurance, that will be definitely part of the requirements that you'll have to show whether you are vaccinated or not, and that will definitely impact what policies you get offered. But, aside from that, the airlines will be asking people if you're vaccinated or not. But regardless of travel insurance, and I'll give you a quick case study. Singapore Airlines at the moment are operating 2 types of flights. One flight is fully vaccinated, and that is 12-year-olds and older have to be vaccinated. And then there's another type of flight, which is where it's unvaccinated. Right. But going back to travel insurance, you will have to buy travel insurance that has COVID coverage on top, just so that if you get COVID, you'll be covered for any medical expenses. Particularly important when you're going to places like the United States, where we know the medical expenses are incredibly expensive and have bankrupted people in the past. So travel insurance is going to be extremely complex. On top of that is you've got to understand whether the government, under the Smart Traveller advice, is allowing you to travel or encouraging you not to travel, because that could also impact whether your travel insurance is null and void. If it's a destination that the government says to reconsider travel to, often that will null and void your travel insurance. So that's another level of complexity to understanding what's possible in a COVID world.
Okay, and so if you're unfortunate, you're double vaccinated, you're overseas, and you get COVID, you may have to find a way of paying the bills over there and extending your trip because they won't let you back in Australia.
Absolutely. And that's why when you do get COVID travel insurance, make sure it covers you for COVID illnesses. Plus, think about extending the period of coverage because you will be delayed over there. So that's the other real complexity here is if you're going away for 2 weeks, don't buy 2 weeks worth of travel insurance because if you do run into troubles, you will be away for a lot longer than 2 weeks.
One quick one about going to places like Queensland. I'm getting mixed messages here. I'm not hearing about a plan. There's no plan ahead for Queensland, although we've got plans everywhere else except for WA. And I get the feeling from the Health Minister they are expecting that in 5 or 6 weeks' time, COVID will come to Queensland. Is that code for they will open for Christmas or not?
Yep, you're reading the tea leaves there. Absolutely bang on. The rumour on the street is that they will be open from the 1st of December. And I cannot tell you how badly this is affecting the travel industry in Queensland. It is devastating. I'll give you one quick case study. We know that Cairns is losing $7 million a day the longer this goes on. They lost 5% of their occupancy over Christmas in just 2 weeks. That is absolutely devastating. They could hold on to those bookings if the Palaszczuk government was to set a date. And so that's why that date is so important. Not only does it give them a roadmap, but it holds on to the bookings that they actually currently do have.
Right. Amazing. Amazing ahead. Very interesting times, but at least some good news today. Quentin Long, thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, Smithy. Great to be with you.